What happens when a pushy neighbor decides your car belongs to her spoiled daughter, and then drags the police into it without realizing you have the state attorney on speed dial? Stick around till the end because this wild ride only gets crazier, and if you love stories where arrogant bullies get instant karma, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more jaw-dropping tales. One sunny Saturday morning, I decided to give my beloved Jeep Wrangler, the one I had worked tirelessly to buy and maintain, a deep clean and polish in my driveway because after a long week at work, there's nothing more satisfying than restoring that shine and admiring the machine that represents years of dedication and discipline. But of course, in my neighborhood, peace and quiet rarely lasted long thanks to Karen, the entitled woman who lived just 2 houses down, always finding some way to stir drama, whether it was complaining about where people parked, yelling at kids for playing too loudly, or making demands as though the whole street revolved around her and her daughter, a spoiled 20-something who still lived at home despite never lifting a finger to work or contribute. And as I was buffing the hood, music playing low, I heard the unmistakable sound of Karen's sandals smacking the pavement as she marched over with her usual scowl, hands on hips like she owned the place, and without even a hello, she barked, "That Jeep should be parked at my house, my daughter needs a car, and you know you don't deserve something that nice when a young woman is struggling to get to work," which nearly made me choke on my laughter because her daughter had never worked a day in her life. She simply lounged around the porch scrolling on her phone and demanding frappuccinos, yet Karen spun this sob story as though the world owed them charity. So I calmly replied, "Karen, this Jeep is mine, I paid for it, I maintain it, and it isn't for sale, let alone a giveaway." But she waved her hand dismissively like my words didn't matter and said, "Don't be ridiculous, you're a man, you can always get another car, but my daughter, she deserves this one, and if you were any kind of decent neighbor you'd hand it over." Now, I had dealt with her antics before, but this level of entitlement stunned even me, and I realized this wasn't going to end with just words, especially because her daughter peeked from their porch with a smug grin like she already owned my Jeep. So I decided to document everything by discreetly turning on my phone's recorder, just in case things escalated, and boy was that a smart move. As the argument unfolded, Karen got louder, circling my Jeep, pointing at scratches that didn't exist, claiming it had illegal tinting, and too loud tires, trying to invent reasons it shouldn't be mine, and then she dropped the threat, "If you don't hand it over, I'll call the police and tell them you're harassing me. Let's see how much you love your Jeep when it's impounded." At this point, I leaned against the hood and said, "Go ahead, Karen, call them, let's see how this plays out," because little did she know, I wasn't just any random guy with a car. I worked closely with the state attorney's office through my firm, and I had friends in law enforcement who didn't take kindly to false reports, but I wasn't about to spoil the surprise. I wanted her to dig her own grave first. Sure enough, Karen whipped out her phone, dialing 911 in dramatic fashion, wailing about how her poor daughter was being denied her rightful property by a violent man who was threatening her, and within 10 minutes, 2 squad cars rolled up, lights flashing, officers stepping out with cautious expressions because they clearly expected a serious altercation based on Karen's frantic lies. But the moment they saw me calmly leaning against my Jeep, arms folded, and Karen shrieking like a banshee, I could tell they were already piecing together the truth. Officer Ramirez, who I actually knew from a community charity event, approached me first with a raised brow and quietly asked, "What's going on here?" And I handed him my phone with the live recording of Karen's tirade, explaining, "She claims this is her daughter's car, wants me to hand it over, and called you saying I threatened her," which is all on this recording. And as Ramirez played it back, trying hard not to smirk at Karen's outrageous claims, Karen kept interrupting, screaming, "Don't listen to him. That Jeep belongs to us, my daughter deserves it, he's lying, arrest him." But the second officer was already checking the plates and registration on his device, which of course came back under my name, perfectly legal, taxes up to date, insurance solid, and when he showed the screen to Ramirez, Karen's face paled but she didn't stop. Instead she doubled down, shouting, "He forged those papers, he must have stolen it, why else would such a young man have such a nice car?" That was the last straw for me, so I pulled out my phone again, this time making a very specific call, to Mr. Daniels, the state attorney himself, a man I had worked cases with and who didn't tolerate nonsense, and as soon as Karen heard me casually say, "Hey, Daniels, it's me," Small issue here. Neighbor trying to claim my car and making false reports to the police. Her jaw practically hit the pavement because she realized, far too late, that she had picked a fight with the wrong person. The officers stepped aside as Daniels, who happened to be only a few blocks away on errands, showed up in his own SUV within minutes, walking straight up to Karen with the kind of authority that silences even the loudest mouths, and he said in a measured but sharp tone, "Ma'am, you have just committed the crime of filing a false police report, attempted vehicle theft by coercion, and harassment, all of which are punishable, and you will explain yourself right now." Karen stammered. Her daughter ran back inside the house pretending not to be involved, but the recording on my phone plus the police report plus my spotless registration left her with zero escape routes, and when she tried to spin a story about being confused and just worried for her daughter's future, Daniels shut her down, saying, "Save it for court, because this won't be swept under the rug." Watching Karen get cuffed right there on the curb, screaming that I had ruined her life, and that her baby girl would never forgive this cruelty, was the sweetest justice I had ever seen, and the whole neighborhood peeked from windows, some even filming, because Karen had terrorized everyone for years and finally got what she deserved. But the twist didn't end there, because as it turned out, this wasn't her first rodeo. Daniels later told me she had multiple complaints in her file for similar stunts, trying to bully neighbors into giving her things or inventing violations, but this time, with hard evidence, there was no escaping consequences. Fast forward a few weeks, Karen was facing charges, her daughter had to finally get a job because mommy wasn't around to coddle her, and my Jeep sat proudly in my driveway without a single scratch, gleaming like a trophy of justice, while neighbors came over to thank me for standing up to her, some even saying they'd been too scared to before, and though the ordeal was stressful, I couldn't help but smile knowing that entitlement had been smacked down hard by reality, proving once and for all that no matter how loud a Karen screams, the truth backed by evidence and law will always win.